inherited or sort of were genetically predisposed to these brain differences. But we do know that genes play a large role in brain development, but they also play a large role in our sort of environment and the way we sort of develop socially as individuals and the environments we place ourselves in. So there's definitely an interplay going on and a sort of correlation between these biological risk factors that we know we're born with as children and the later environmental factors that we encounter in our everyday lives.
And what parts of the brain are we talking about here?
So our study showed that on average, the individuals who were persistently antisocial from early childhood through to adulthood had on average, smaller surface area and lower cortical thickness, so sort of a smaller overall brain structure. And then we also showed that in specific regions in prior neuroscience studies, which have been associated with a lot of behaviors that we know that these life course persistent antisocial individuals have difficulty in, we also showed reduced brain structure in some of those specific regions. So really quite a broad and diffuse pattern of reduced brain structure in this group of individuals.
And finally, just very briefly, Dr. Carlisi, do you think it's too early to call this a breakthrough in the study of antisocial behavior?
So we're definitely not advocating that we can use these scans to predict antisocial behavior or offending on an individual level. We don't have the techniques or the advances to do that yet. But what we are suggesting is that this just provides an added layer of evidence to these theories that have been around for many years now, suggesting that not all offenders are alike and we shouldn't necessarily tar everyone with the same brush. So we suggest that individual development may be one driver of repeat offending and serious crime, but we should also be aware of the fact that many individuals can have this behavior attributed to a number of different factors. So it's early to tell, but we're sort of building a picture of evidence at this stage.
Let's have a look at the weather.
The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
Well, most places will have a cold and bright start to Wednesday, but wet and windy weather will spread northeastwards through the day. Thicker cloud and outbreaks of rain will reach parts of Ireland, Pembrokeshire and Cornwall around dawn, but elsewhere it will be a cold start with a touch of frost in lighter winds. Eastern parts of Britain will get the best of the sunshine as cloud thickens from the southwest. Wet and windy weather will gradually spread northeastwards through the day with hill snow for northern Scotland. The rain will be heavy at times over western hills and could lead to further flooding, especially in parts of Wales and northern England that are still recovering from storms Dennis and Kira.
The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
Coming up on Sky News, keep looking out. Hundreds of people in Shropshire are told to leave their homes amid fears that flood barriers could be breached this morning. The government makes thousands of pounds available to those already affected, but more rain is forecast today. Passengers have started disembarking from the quarantined cruise ship the Diamond Princess, which had the biggest cluster of COVID-19 cases outside mainland China. A British couple on that ship have tested positive for COVID-19 as calls grow for UK passengers to be brought home. The new points-based immigration system is announced and is aimed at skilled workers. The jury's out in the Harvey Weinstein rape trial. We'll have the latest from New York.
The truth is, our prime ministers are real racists. They say you should be grateful when at least racist.
And Best Album winner Dave makes his views on Boris Johnson clear in a night of political statements at the Brit Awards. Good morning. People who've lost homes and businesses in the flooding caused by Storm Dennis were told last night to leave their homes as worse could be yet to come. More heavy rain is forecast later today, raising fears that rivers already at record levels could breach their defences within hours. Now, with parts of South Wales, Shropshire, Herefordshire and Worcestershire underwater, the government has made thousands of pounds available to help those affected. There are still more than 140 flood warnings in place in England and 5 in Wales, which indicates flooding is expected in those areas. There are a total of 6 severe flood warnings, meaning a danger to life, in Shropshire, Herefordshire and Worcestershire. And a severe warning has been downgraded in Monmouth, from where our national correspondent Alex Rossi now reports.
With swathes of the UK underwater, many communities are slowly being cut off. Through Worcestershire, Gloucestershire and South Wales, we found road after road inundated with floodwater. Motorists are being warned not to put themselves in any danger. Many roads will remain closed for days to come.
At 6 o'clock people get through, and we didn't have any road closure signs, but that's what we continued to go through. And I think from about 7, 8 o'clock, that's when they got into trouble and their cars stuck.
And with river levels rising, some residents have already become trapped.
How bad is it? It's okay.
Tony Kell's home on the River Severn is now surrounded by raging floodwater, but he is unconcerned.
But you're completely cut off. But that's a good thing, he says.
People living this close to nature are having to get used to more unpredictable weather, and that means coping with almost regular floods. But more areas are becoming at risk as Britain's storms carry more water than ever before.
The levels of flooding in parts of the country are now unprecedented. We're very close to the River Wye here. This road has been completely submerged. And you can see why entire communities are cut off. And walking around places like this, it's a very strange sight. It's eerie. Most of the houses have been evacuated. And look through the window over here. People's furniture, their possessions, all their stuff just floating around in the dirty floodwater. And what's more, forecasters say with more rain and gale force winds on their way, this is likely to get worse before it gets better.
In Monmouth, in South Wales, police have closed this bridge. It's feared the sheer volume of water could cause it to collapse. Many people have been stuck outside in the cold for hours, trying to get home.
I've been out since about 7 this morning, took 2 photographs when everybody else was walking across the bridge. Rules are rules, I suppose. It's just frustrating.
From above, huge expanses of land are now swamped by floodwater. This is Ironbridge in Shropshire. The Environment Agency says 470 tonnes of water are passing through here every second. The flood barriers are holding, but many buildings are being evacuated just in case. And climate scientists say we can expect more of this in the years to come.
Climate change is causing global warming and global temperatures to increase. Per every degree of warming, we see a 7% increase in the air to store water vapour. That means that when we have flooding events as we've seen in the UK, those are becoming more intense because of climate change.
There are still hundreds of flood warnings in place, and that is unlikely to change anytime soon. And with so much rain over the last few weeks,
Britain's David and Sally Abel demanded the government step in.
Let me ask you a question, British government. Don't you want our people home?
But today, hours after the Foreign Office confirmed an evacuation plane will be sent for UK citizens, the pair tested positive for the virus, something they feared would happen as they watched the number of infected on board rising daily.
Every single time there is a knock on the door, your stomach flips.
Yeah, you just don't know whether they're going to come and say, okay, let's go, and you're going to be taken off to a medical centre.
The Foreign Office says it has the utmost concern for the British on board and is in touch with the Abels. But more than 500 people on this ship have tested positive for coronavirus, and waiting passengers are terrified they could be next. The whole point of quarantining passengers on the ship for 14 days was to try and contain the virus. But now the Diamond Princess has the highest concentration of coronavirus cases outside mainland China.
This is Alan and Vanessa's guide to what you can do when in quarantine on a cruise ship. Going through war.
East Midlands couple Alan and Vanessa have been counting down to the 19th when they thought they'd be free. But the new British evacuation plan likely means longer on board and another 14 days isolation in the UK.
Are we nearly there yet?
It's good that the government's doing the flight, but it's the quarantine. We've already done 14, 15 days quarantine. We're going to do a few more while the aircraft comes to pick us up. And then to get back to the UK and be told that almost certainly we're going to be doing another 14 days quarantine. That's hard to get it put into words how difficult that's going to be now. And I start to worry about our own mental health and physical health and about how we're going to actually recover from this.
Passengers will begin disembarking on Wednesday. It's unlikely Alan and the Britons will be among them. The government says it's organising a flight home as soon as possible, but for some, the rescues come a little too late. Siobhan Robbins, Sky News, Japan.
Well, China's ambassador to the UK, Liu Xiaoming, says the British government should revise its travel advice to avoid panic amid the ongoing COVID-19 crisis. Speaking to Sky News, the ambassador denied that China had tried to cover up the early stages of the outbreak and said the rate of people dying from COVID-19 is now falling. He was speaking to our Foreign Affairs editor, Deborah Hayes.
China's man in London has what he describes as very good news. It's about his president's first phone call with Prime Minister Boris Johnson. The fight against the COVID-19 coronavirus was of course a focus, but so too was the friendship between Britain and China.
Prime Minister told President he loves China and he wants to work with China and his administration to elevate relationship to a new level. It's a very good composition, and it really not only set the tone, but also set a new direction for China-UK relations. A critical moment, between China and the UK.
Nothing's more critical right now than containing the coronavirus epidemic. Today it claimed the life of another top doctor in the Chinese city at its epicenter. Liu Ximing was the director of a hospital in Wuhan. The ambassador can't yet say if the crisis has reached its peak, but he pointed to positive signs.
It is first time that the confirmed cases were brought down to less than 2,000, and the death cases were brought down to less than 100, and the confirmed cases outside Hubei were brought down less than 100. That showed that quarantine effort measures are taking very good effect.
He defended the authorities from allegations of being slow to respond and of cover-up. The ambassador's also hopeful Britain will scrap travel advice to its nationals to leave China.
our measures are making progress and showing positive effect. And the British, I think the British government advises they are going to make adjustment according to the situation in China.
In the rare phone call with the British Prime Minister, President Xi spoke of his appreciation for a message of support he received from the Queen. Boris Johnson also offered extra help. This is a relationship both sides seem keen to nurture away from the coronavirus too.
We know that once UK leaves, you will have a new free trade agreement with China, and we are open to that.
The prospect of such a deal has doubtless been helped by a UK decision to defy US pressure over its policy on China. The Prime Minister chose not to block the Chinese firm Huawei from Britain's next-generation 5G network, despite security concerns. It's a gamble that won't have gone unnoticed by China's all-powerful president. Deborah Haynes, Sky News.
The government is publishing its long-awaited plans for a revamped immigration system to start at the beginning of next year. Ministers say the points-based system will shift the emphasis from low-skilled to high-skilled workers. Our political correspondent Kate McCann has the latest.
Boris Johnson has always been clear that he believes that the right thing to do when it comes to the UK leaving the European Union and therefore being able to set its own immigration policy is that it should be fair for everybody around the globe. Those rules should be the same whether you're from a European Union country or any other country around the world. And that's essentially what is at the heart of this system. It's all about skills. It's about language skills, educational skills, the salary that you can command as a worker. And it's based entirely on what the UK needs as a country, rather than people being able to freely move between countries as they do at the moment in the European Union. Now, as you outlined there will be some exceptions. So you'll be able to come to the UK on a 6-month visitor's visa, but you won't be able to work, for example. So you won't need to get documentation to do that. And there will be some exemptions for people who earn lower salaries if they're in professions that the UK needs. There'll be some exemptions too, for example, farm workers. There'll be a scheme that allows many thousands of them to come into the UK on a seasonal basis, because there are some concerns from businesses around the country about being able to sustain themselves without those workers. But to answer your question, really, at the heart of this policy is to shift the UK away from preferring migrants from EU countries, making it easier for them to come here and work, and making it the same for everybody around the world. Now, there are some concerns about this new system. We've mentioned some of those in particular sectors. Agriculture is one of them, social care is another. But the Labour Party have concerns too, and Diane Abbott, the Shadow Home Secretary, has commented on the plans tonight. She says if families are split up because spouses and children are denied entry, this will be terrible for them and will deter many of the workers we need. If they're all short-term visas, only the most desperate workers will come, and will have the effect of creating a two-tier workforce. Ultimately, it will also be very difficult to attract the workers we need at all skill levels while the Tories' hostile environment is in place. It needs to go. Labour will be pressing hard on all these points as the legislation proceeds. So there are some concerns about who will be able to come to the UK, what criteria they will have to meet in order to do that, and whether or not that will mean that businesses around the country have to adjust quite quickly to a new system that could be in place as early as next January if everything is approved by Parliament and a new deal is struck with the European Union by then.
Rape and sexual assault allegations against the Hollywood producer Harvey Weinstein arguably triggered the Me Too movement. And last night, jurors in his trial retired to consider their verdict. Our US correspondent Greg Milam has more now from New York, and a warning his report contains flash photography.
Donna Rotuno, who is the lead defence lawyer for Harvey Weinstein, wrote an opinion piece that was published at the weekend in which she appeared to question the fairness of this trial process and how he'd been mocked by the media throughout the trial so far. In fact, the prosecution wanted him to be remanded in custody as a punishment. He wasn't, but his lawyer was reprimanded, and a few minutes after that the jury was sent out to consider their verdict. They spent about 5 hours deliberating before they went home for the evening, those 7 men and 5 women who now face the real test of deciding, after all we've heard about Harvey Weinstein in the last 2 and a bit years, all they've heard during the course of this trial, it is for them to decide those 5 charges, the most serious of which, predatory sexual assault, is one that carries a maximum mandatory life sentence if convicted. This trial has heard raped in 2013, supported by a third woman whose evidence is key to that charge of predatory sexual assault, if it's to be proved. We've also heard outside of court from the lawyer Gloria Allred, who represents one of those alleged victims, and saying that the key thing here is the evidence of an expert on what they call rape myths, the woman who explains why people stay in touch with their alleged accusers. This is what Gloria Allred said to reporters today.
My hope is that they have listened carefully to the expert testimony of Dr. Barbara Ziv, and that they will understand some of the rape myths that have been advanced by the defense, and that they will understand that they are myths, and that they should not base their verdict, if they're able to reach one, based on those rape myths.
Now she's referring there to the defence case in this trial that the women involved in these charges are opportunists who were looking for career advancement with their friendship with Harvey Weinstein, looking for connections, pointing to the fact, as those two women have admitted, that they continue to be in touch with him, continue relationships with him, even after these alleged offences. On the other side of that, the prosecution, who have said all along that Harvey Weinstein is a man who abused his power, who tricked and trapped these women into being assaulted, and therefore deserves the maximum punishment. It is a watershed moment for the Me Too movement, which of course burst onto the scene with those stories about Harvey Weinstein back in October 2017. And we should remember as well that whatever happens with this jury in this trial, he will face another trial in Los Angeles when this one is all over.
Progressive Jaguar Land Rover has claimed the company will achieve Destination Zero. That's the future of no emissions, congestion, or even accidents. It's after the opening of one of Europe's largest car research and development centres at the University of Warwick in Coventry, looking at how cars and public transport might integrate in the years to come. Well, my colleague Devon Manahan asks around Speth if that ambition is really possible.
We have to start, and you start with the first step in that direction. And we have this kind of purpose absolutely also in the blueprint of success for our company. So first we will make sure that we go in the direction to assist the drivers even more, but also make our new vehicles autonomous ready to go in the direction of really zero accident. 90% of all the accidents on the street are caused by a driver, and we can help a lot.
And integrates with a public transport system in a city.
Yes, absolutely. And that means at the end of the day we have to make the vehicle clever, but on the other hand also we have to integrate the infrastructure to find the right proportions in between the car and the infrastructure in order to make sure that we can accelerate this kind of process to come earlier to an autonomous environment.
But isn't one of the dangers that ultimately you innovate yourself out of business if you have integrated pods, autonomous pods integrated with the public transport system? Won't people just give up on car ownership itself and just summon one of these pods to their house when they need it?
No, not at all. In contrary, we see more and more vehicles on the road. We also see the population growing, and we see more mobility demand. Against the background, we have to make sure that driving is fun and will be fun also in the future, and where we can add value for our customers, where we can add value for the drivers, we do so. So we even attract more, and we orchestrate it in a more intelligent way. Therefore, it's a huge opportunity going forward.
And can I ask you about some of the challenges here and now, Sir Ralph? Of course, coronavirus. This must be affecting sales in China and, of course, threatening your supply chain.
You're right. And by the way, not only we, this is an issue for the complete car automotive industry. First of all, at the moment, there's no demand in China. We were really good in swing. We were overachieving our targets until day 28 of the last months. And then, in principle, the demand was more or less going down drastically. addition, as you rightly said so, we don't see, we have, from a supply chain point of view, a real critical area in both the plants in China but also the plants in Europe.
We have no idea how much longer coronavirus will be around for, or its continuing effect on China's production capabilities. Could it see the factories in the UK, could it see them shut down for a time because they can't get the parts?
At the very moment we are safe, and we have checked everything for the next 2 weeks. And we also say for the very first week of the production in China starting next week. But then I only can share and agree to your statement that we also don't know more how long it will take until the supply chain in China comes on stream again.
And another supply chain question, of course, what we do know about how long it will take, certainly if Boris Johnson has his way, Brexit, a deal or indeed no deal by the end of this year,